Hi, I'm Angela Lau and I'm the transplant pharmacist, and today I'm going to go over medications that your child will be taking after transplant. So I'll just discuss in detail exactly what the medications are used for, how to give them, and some side effects that may or may not occur. Now, if your child experiences any of these side effects, I recommend you contacting or calling your nurse coordinator and going over them with them in detail. Okay. Now, if you have any questions about your medications, you can contact me or any person on the transplant team.
Right after transplant, the challenges with the medications were just that there was a lot of them and there was a really strict timetable. Certain things need to be given on certain days at certain times. There was different rules about when you could eat, when you couldn't eat. Once we were discharged in the hospital, it was easy because they just bring them and say, do this now. Once I got home, my fridge became our command central, and it had a list of what needed to go in at what time.
Another strategy about medication for those early days when there are so many of them, it seemed very overwhelming to me that there were medications every couple of hours, and then multiple medications every couple of hours, and medications all through the day, and some NPO and all of that. What my husband and I did was he sat down every morning and made up the whole pot of medications for the day. So at that point, my son was an infant, so everything was being given orally through syringes. And so he crushed everything and put it in oral syringes and labeled them all so that hour by hour we could just grab one, squirt it in, and be done.
I had a pretty little spreadsheet that had all my meds and the times of day that I took them and the dosing. And I used the alarm on my cell phone to remind me, because I believe I was taking 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, noon, 6, 8, 9. So setting a little alarm on my cell phone just to have a beep to remind me wherever I was a great way to keep me on track with that.
The day I keep track of all my medications, I had a day planner. Okay. And I will mark it every time that I give it to her. So then and of course I will forget sometimes, and I just will go back and I find out that yes, that was already done. And it was really helpful just to make sure that everything was followed as was supposed to be. And at the same time, it was a release for me that not to be worried that if I forget any medicine.
My husband now has picked that responsibility up. Before it was me, and we'd always check in terms of how much we need when, but he's just kind of taken that off my plate. And he makes all his meds ahead of time, just kind of measuring it out, etc. So we always have enough for a week. And so he tracks when we're coming down and look at the refill date. So we always give ourselves a week. So he'll call at least a week before we know we're going to be running short and calling to make sure we get a refill. That, I tell you, has helped tremendously.
The medication list was very helpful. Ours, I don't know what they look like now. Ours was color-coded so that every medication had a different color, and I could put a sticker on the medication bottle so that when I was really tired, I could say, okay, red medication, this is aspirin. Aspirin is red, and just as a second check for myself. I also asked the transplant coordinator to email me the medication list, because when we went into clinic and they would make changes on it, I was concerned that my husband or I would be confused about things being crossed out and written in. So they would make a change on it, and I would go home and change it on our version and print out a clean one so we always had what was current. And I taped that on the cupboard where all of his medications were so that we were all clear about what the current medication protocol was.
Traveling with medication, the first time scared me so badly. I had lists of things, and I had prescriptions with me and everything. If anyone was going to question me, I had it all. We flew internationally, so I had ice pack, and some of them need to be kept cold and some of them don't. So I just had Ziploc bags for everything, and I had prescriptions. And it was actually a lot easier than I ever expected. The airline people just said, okay, you've got a big medication, take it out, we'll look at it. Sometimes they swab it, sometimes they don't. They don't touch anything, they just take the lids off and have a little peek. But it's actually turned out to be much easier than I ever expected. So yeah, ice packs and lots of Ziploc bags.
Traveling, just like nowadays I only take 2 medications, so even if I'm just going to work, I keep like an evening and a morning dose in my purse with me just in case. And when I've gone on trips where I've needed to go on airplanes, I split up my supply, like in case I lose my luggage. So I'll carry half my meds in my carry-on and half in my luggage, just to ensure that I always have them, you know, whether a flight's delayed or a bag's lost.